Could flagship killer also mean Apple's flagship? We find out in this, a quick look at the Apple iPhone 6 Plus versus the OnePlus One. When it comes to the design, the iPhone 6 Plus is basically a larger version of its smaller sibling. The same full metal unibody construction, rounded edges all around, and the signature home button with the integrated fingerprint scanner up front, just in a larger body. The OnePlus One is another Android smartphone that is comparable to the 6 Plus in terms of size. There's no metal here though, with the OnePlus One coming in either a baby skin white version or a sandstone black version, with both offering different feels in the hand. The display size is the same on both, but the 6 Plus is slightly taller and wider, but it is definitely thinner. Like its smaller sibling, the 6 Plus is definitely one of the thinnest smartphones you can get in this size category. The 6 Plus is also about 10 grams heavier than the OnePlus One. Apple gave in to the trend of bigger smartphones, which means that the display comparison is a much more level playing field this time around, and it's almost practically identical. The 6 Plus features a 5.5-inch IPS LCD display, while the OnePlus One comes with a LTPS LCD screen of the same size. Both feature a 1080p resolution, resulting in an identical pixel density of 401 pixels per inch. The experience is largely same on both screens. You'll get a good time when it comes to text, games, movies, whatsoever. The OnePlus One did have some issues with some units having a yellowish tinge to it, but at least my unit does not have that problem, so you get a comparable bright color system, good brightness, and great viewing angles on either of these displays. It's the age-old ecosystem debate, as the iPhone 6 Plus does pack with it iOS 8, but powering it is a dual-core A8 processor clocked in at 1.4 GHz along with 1 GB of RAM. But then, on the other hand, we have some of the best that is there to offer in the OnePlus One, with the flagship standard, which is the Snapdragon 801 at 2.5 GHz backed by 3 GB of RAM. Now, while there's an obvious difference on paper, it isn't really evident in real-world performance, which is something we've expected in iPhone versus Android already. So regardless of what you do with these phones, you'll have a smooth, quick experience. The iPhone 6 Plus comes with 16, 64, or 128 GB of storage, while the OnePlus One comes in at 16 and 64 GB flavors, and neither offer the option of expandable storage. Apple did finally introduce NFC with their device, even if it is limited to just the use of Apple Pay. But also worth noting is the return of the fingerprint scanner, and that is a convenient layer of extra security which can now be used by some third-party applications in iOS 8. These are features that don't make it onto the more Spartan OnePlus One. As we move into the cameras, we find that the iPhone 6 Plus keeps the 8-megapixel rear shooter from its predecessor, though it does come with a new sensor, an f2.2 aperture lens, faster autofocus, and optical image stabilization, which is not found in its smaller brethren. Video also gets a boost as well, especially with the ability to capture slow-motion video at 240 frames per second in 720p resolution. Indeed, the modes that are available in the iPhone 6 camera application might seem quite limited, but we have found that iPhone quality in terms of this picture has been pretty good in previous iterations, and we don't expect it to change in this one. On the other hand, we have the 13-megapixel Sony Exmor RS sensor of the OnePlus One, combined with a 6-part lens construction with the f2.0 aperture, a dual LED flash, and a great software package that, in contrast to the iPhone 6 camera app, has a lot of different features which will allow for a great camera experience that is catered to the way that you want it to be. On the front, you get a 5-megapixel camera with a wide lens that enables an 80 degrees field of view, which is good for some selfie lovers out there. And finally, in software, we revisit iOS versus Android, but in the case of the OnePlus One, it is CyanogenMod 11S. It's basically a special release built specifically for the OnePlus One to take advantage of all of its hardware and features. You get a clean, minimalistic, stock-like experience, but get underneath the surface and you'll find a lot of customization options, not just with the device's theme engine and with its own store for the theme engine, but also for various types of gestures that are available, and a lot of options to really cater the experience to what you want it to be, like Android should be. But for the iPhone 6, the iOS 8 UI remains largely the same as iOS 7, but there are some new features, such as the support for third-party keyboards, putting widgets in the notification dropdown, and the actually robust new health application. Probably the most exciting feature is continuity, which allows you to have sync across a bunch of different Apple products, but then from there you also get the reachability feature, which allows for one-handed use. But here is the crux of this comparison, where price isn't usually a factor when it comes to flagship comparisons because they usually all fall around the same price range. That is not the case here, with the OnePlus One available at almost 1/3 of the cost of the iPhone 6 Plus. This is certainly worth noting for what could be considered a similar experience, at least in terms of size, display quality, and for the most part the different tasks that you would be able to do in either one of these phones. If you do find that the OnePlus One already caters to what it is that you need to do in your daily life, then its cost is probably going to be the trump card that lets you choose it over the iPhone 6 Plus. So keep it tuned to Android Authority for even more coverage of the iPhone and iPhone 6 Plus as we take a look at the competition here, comparing them to Android flagships, because we are your source for all things Android.